Hi, so what I've got here is a coil of wire. And we all know that if we waggle a magnet by a coil of wire, we'll create some electricity. The shaker torch was based on this. It was just a coil of wire, a magnet inside, you gave it a good shake, it charged a battery and it lit a light. Now equally, if I put some electricity into the coil, what I'll do is create an electromagnet, and we've seen those in scrapyards and James Bond films. So from that we know a magnet moving past a coil will create electricity. Electricity in a coil will create a magnet. Now it doesn't actually matter much whether it's a flat bar, a coil of wire or a pipe. That same effect will happen. If you have a magnet moving past a conductor, it'll create electricity. If you put electricity into a conductor, it'll create a magnet. And it doesn't matter what shape it is. Now, we've all seen this again, I'm sure. Pipe, magnet, drop it down there and it moves more slowly than you would drop it in air. Now, we don't have a special bit of pipe. It's not a bit of anti-gravity pipe. It's not making the magnet weigh less or reducing the force of gravity, so it must be doing something else. What it's doing, of course, we've just talked about. As the magnet moves past the copper, it creates another magnet. It actually creates a flow of electricity, and that flow of electricity creates the magnet, and that magnet that's produced by the flow of electricity is in opposition to the falling magnet, and so the magnet falls slower. Now, motion is relative. If I was stood on this magnet and I dropped it down the copper pipe, then to me it would look like the copper was zipping past. If I stood on the copper pipe and dropped the magnet down, to me it would look like the magnet was rushing past. Motion actually is just a point of view. So that will work if it's in a straight line. It'll also work if the copper is rotating. It doesn't matter as long as there is movement. The movement can be of the copper, it can be of the magnet, it's all relative, it doesn't matter. As long as that field is moving, then that effect will happen. Okay, so big whoop, what does that mean to us? Well, clearly we can apply a force in a straight line, or we can apply a force in a circle. And of course we're interested in motors and generators, and what we're doing is we're applying a force to make that rotate, or if you like, in a circle. When you apply a force to make something rotate, or you apply a force in a rotation, that's the torque. That's all the torque is. It's just a force applied to make that spin. That's torque. Now, inside here, of course, we have a bunch of copper, and we know that when that begins to generate, it's actually going to set up a magnetic field that is in opposition to the field that we're applying to it in order to make it generate, in exactly the same way as the pipe and magnet. It will resist that change because it's inherent in the material that we're using. The only way to overcome counter torque is not to turn it. But of course you don't generate if you do that. And that's because the minute you create a flow of electricity in those wires, you create a magnet in opposition. The minute you move a magnet past a wire, you create a flow of electricity. The two are inherent properties of each other. Of course we can overcome that counter torque because we can turn it and generate, and we turn it and generate by applying a force here. However, the counter torque operates as a limiting factor on generators, because the faster we turn it, the more current we get, the bigger the counter torque, and we can only keep turning it faster and faster until we reach the limit of the power that we can apply here. Now, there's always a limit to the power you can apply. I have a certain arm strength. I can't lift 75 kilos, 100 kilos. I can lift 25, 50, but I don't have enough arm strength. There's always a limit to the power that you can supply. So the power supplied here will create a counter torque. That counter torque will reach a level so that there's not enough power being supplied here to overcome the counter torque, and that is the limiting factor of a generator. Okay, so that's all very interesting, but what's the point? Well, the point is it limits the number of coils you can put on a generator. As you put more coils on, of course you increase the generation, but you equally increase the counter torque that you're going to need to overcome in order to turn this. Now remember, you can turn this by applying more force to it, but there's always a limit to the force that you can apply. Whatever that is, whether it's your arms, your legs, the wind, water, there's going to be a limit to the available force that can be put in here. And so there's a limit to the number of coils you can put round there. So it's got nothing to do with cogging. It's just the counter torque. You have to be able to overcome that in order to turn it and generate it. The more of these you add, the more counter torque you're going to also add, and so you have to be able to apply the force to overcome that counter torque, otherwise you're not going to be able to turn it. So there's always a limit. You can't just add an infinite number of coils. You want to add coils so that you can turn it against the counter torque and the output that you want from it. So that is a limit you have to pay attention to when you're building generators. Now you can calculate it if you want. What I tend to do is just stick a load on until I can't turn it anymore and then pull a few more off. Or you can calculate it. Anyway, I thought I'd go through what torque was, what counter torque was, how it limits generators and where it arises from. I hope the video is of interest. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.